I've done a lot of these shows over the past several years, and honestly speaking, they don't all have, although all of them are important, they don't have equal importance. And quite often we have a show that has meaning for everybody, or can have meaning for everybody. And today we have such a show because we're dealing with a phenomenon that's very existent in our society. And I'm going to go back and recall something that I heard several years ago, which is that 75% of the people in the country need some kind of mental or psychiatric help or psychological help. Now, I don't know how true that statistic is, but I'm going to raise my hand as being one who probably does. This is a call to action.
A call to action.
And I'm your host, Alex Habersham, and I use that introduction to let you know that I have a young lady with me today who's the executive director of River Edge Behavioral Health Center. And this organization deals with a lot of things, and it's not a kept secret, but I think, considering all of the things that are going on in our community, that everybody needs to know about it. Now, before I be quiet and let Miss Shannon Harvey talk, whom I'll introduce in a minute, I want to talk for a minute about a scenario that's going on out in our country as it relates to all of the school shootings and all of the murders and all of the suicides and homicide combination and just several things that are going on not only in our community but in the country and in the world. And many of these things are related in one way or another to mental, the need for some kind of mental, psychological, psychiatric, emotional assistance. And it's important for all of us to know. And that's why I want you all to, after you hear this show, then I want you to save it and give it to somebody else. Because this information can help to impact our society in a positive manner, and we all need it. I have with me today Miss Shannon Harvey, Harvey.
Correct.
Yeah, who is the executive director of the River Edge Behavioral Health Center.
Very well.
I got it right.
Yes, you did.
And then just reviewing all of the items and all of the areas that this organization covers, I was just taken aback because I know people, who could probably use that kind of assistance and that kind of help. But before we talk about the programs, let's talk a little bit about Shannon.
Okay. Born and raised in Griffin, Georgia. I trained as a teacher and as a social worker, and have been in the Macon area for about 10 years now, and working in my current role since 2009. It's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, just give us an overview. Then I want to get into some specificities a little later.
Okay.
But just give us a general overview of River Edge. I know you had your, your mantra. Mm-hmm. You told me what that was. I read what it was. So just tell us about River Edge.
Well, first of all, I wanted to comment on your statistics. You're very right that mental health, addictive disease recovery, and developmental disabilities don't just affect some people, they affect all of us. 1 in 4 has a mental health challenge at some point in their lives. 1 in 7 has an addiction, and 3 of every 100 babies is born with a developmental disability. Where we come from at River Edge is recovery is real, recovery is possible, treatment is effective, and recovery can be expected.
Wow.
And so our services are geared to make life better, not just for the people that we serve, but for the communities that we serve as well. And so when you think about our services, they're predominantly outpatient-based, intensive outpatient. We do offer some residential services for folks from 5 to 95. Because of the scope of services we provide, we can do a lot of specialization. For example, we have targeted services for children, for teens, for young adults, for middle-aged adults with the varying issues, and then for older adults as well. We have mental health services, addiction services for individuals who have maybe a mental health challenge and an addiction, and then for developmental disabilities as well.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Let's talk specifically. I noticed that you say, so you evidently, if you're 5 years old, you fit into that category, 5 plus, So I want to talk about some of the specific services as it relates to the areas that you cover, like mental health, addiction, and those other kinds of problems. Let's deal it with some specificity. The reason being is because I want the audience, the listening and viewing audience, I guess if they listen, they are viewing, the radio and the TV audience is to get enough information, because, so if something is presented to them that wherein they feel like a family member, a friend, a neighbor, or an associate. And I'm reminded of, I don't know all the details of the shooting, but where this guy and his wife shot 2 officers, and one of the neighbors was on TV, saying that she wished she had said something. And I'm sure there are other scenarios in our families, in our neighborhoods, in our churches, in our organization, wherein we observe something. And it's not necessarily negative, but if you think about, the prevention, and the treatment that could be afforded to certain situations had this occurred, then it becomes extremely important that the community knows about, there's help somewhere. And life can be made better for a lot of people, because I know, and and everybody else knows, that it's not just that patient, it's also family members who are affected. So let's talk specifically about those programs.
Well, let me give you some specifics. If you desire more information, or your viewers or listeners desire more information, 2 things to tell you. Number 1, www.river- like a minus sign, edge.org is our website.
Okay.
Then a number to call for help in Bibb County, 478-803-7625.
Good.
And then in terms of what services are available, the first thing that happens when someone calls is we try to get an idea of what is the presenting issue. What age are they? What might be their most immediate need? And then to help that person navigate to the right resource. Typically that starts with an assessment, and then based on that assessment, a person may be referred to intensive outpatient addictive recovery services where we offer day and evening to accommodate folks' work schedule, for example.
Wow.
Or if a person is acutely in crisis, we offer out near Middle Georgia State College 28 beds of stabilization for adults, 16 beds for youth, and they may stay.
That's not related to addiction, those beds, or are they related to everything?
They could be, typically it's addiction or acute psychiatric crisis. And then if the need, for example, is addiction, and it's believed that they may need, based on their assessment, residential care, we offer the Billingsley Recovery Residence out, and it's a 6-month program for men. And then LifeSpring is a around 6-month residential program where women can bring their children. The Billingsley Recovery Residence houses 14 men at a time, and the LifeSpring can accommodate up to 21 women and their children at a time. So those are just some of the resources that are
now what about specifically, no, let me say this first. I think it's such a shame that it seems that, less attention is being paid to mental illnesses, psychiatric and psychological, as evidenced by the closing of Central State, as evidenced by the reducing of the budget, for this kind of stuff. But I think it's very real. I think society shows that it's very real, that it's that it's very much needed. So what about, say, psychological problems? If a person, you know, it's hard to determine it, and I since you're the expert, I mean, what do you do if you, in fact, you know, you don't know this, but I understand. Now, I don't know how true it is. They said they would pay you, you know, to take a person to Central State, you know, to the mental hospital. You know, you could take them and admit them, and, you know, they would reward you for admitting them because of the kind of dangers you may have been saving society from. So, I mean, what about the psychological problems that are evidenced by individuals? I mean, should one just encourage that individual to seek help, or should a call be made, or what should you do?
Well, first of all, mental illnesses are biologically based brain disorders, just like epilepsy, or just like maybe diabetes is a biologically based disorder. And so that's one of the stigmas we hope to change. Recovery is real, treatment is effective, and recovery can be expected. And so if it's a child, I would encourage the guardian or the involved person to take the initiative to take that child to the doctor for that mental health challenge, just like you would take them for an earache. Okay.
Now that's very important, because too often in our society there's too much stigmatism, if you please, associated with the need for psychological or psychiatric help.
Right. And then as far as an adult is concerned, the most effective interventions are, I'm concerned about you. I know that treatment is available and treatment is effective. Let me go with you, or can I take you, or let me make an appointment for you. Anything to promote access to care and to support a person seeking help. Those are the key things.
That's very, very important. We talked about how to refer people, you know, to the health center, but oftentimes I think that individuals observe certain behaviors on the part of family members or citizens or what have you. Let's talk about the symptoms of some of these specific diseases. And I want to reiterate, Mrs. Harvey, this is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Habersham, interviewing Ms. Shannon Harvey, who's the Executive Director of the River Edge Behavioral Health Center here in Central Georgia. I got it right. And I want to specifically thank you for mentioning, emphasizing the fact that it's just like any other illness. You know, mental health is just like mental illness is like diabetes or any other illness. So, because it's important that people understand that and they don't just stigmatize people, because most of us got something wrong with us, you know, either physically or mentally or psychologically, and some of us socially, but we won't go into that. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the things or behaviors that can be observed, which will be an indication of certain illnesses. For example, Ms. Crum just asked about schizophrenia and about one being bipolar.
Okay, all right. Let's talk first about kind of the class called psychotic disorders. Schizophrenia is one of those, and some of the symptoms are having someone who responds to stimuli that other people don't see or hear. So like auditory hallucinations or visual hallucinations. Often people who experience schizophrenia have kind of a flat affect, or they don't interact in the way that's common in society. Folks might just say he or she's not right, okay? And the great news is, even since I came in the field in 1988, there have been incredible advances in medicine.
Wow.
And recovery is real, and recovery can be expected. Where when I first started, there weren't a lot of pharmacological agents that helped with schizophrenia. So that's kind of the psychotic disorders class. Then the other kind of broad class is mood disorders, and that's either depression or bipolar or anxiety disorders. And so It is normal when you have a life event that's sad, you might feel depressed, okay? A mental illness develops when that goes on too long,
Wow.
or it is more extreme that might be considered normal, like crying, changes in appetite, difficulty sleeping. Those are kind of symptoms of depression. Bipolar is someone who is really high, really low, really high, really low, that isn't necessarily related to what's going on in the environment. It's triggered by what's going on in the brain. And again, there are wonderful mood stabilizers and antidepressants on the market that can help to stabilize that, to make folks more able to receive the counseling to help people think differently. And then anxiety disorders are, again, that feeling of fear or anxiousness that is outside what might be considered typical. It's normal, for example, when I'm coming on television to have a little bit of anxiety. But if it causes me to sweat uncontrollably, or I can't catch my breath, or it is paralyzing and I can't do the activity, that's outside the norm. And there are both pharmacological agents and counseling that can help people be more successful. Because isn't that the goal? You want everybody to function at their highest level. And like I said, River Edge, we make life better.
One thing that I've been concerned about, and I really don't know what to do, and I really don't know what the problem is, but it seems to me that there are quite a few homeless people who would have those kinds of problems. Like sometimes they're pushing a buggy or they're walking around with everything that they own. Talk about that. Is there a way to approach them, or do they have problems, or is that just by choice? Or
Now, about 45% of people who are homeless, and especially those who are chronically homeless, have either a mental illness, a chemical dependency, or both. And the good news is River Edge has already made life better. I don't know that you know this, but 413 people who were formerly homeless in Macon, Georgia, now have permanent housing because of River Edge Behavioral Health Center. You may be familiar with Grove Park out on Old Clinton Road. You may be familiar with First, Second, and Third neighborhood at Emory and Bowman. And that's an entire city block revitalization done in partnership with different partners in the community led by River Edge. And what that means is mamas and daddies and children formerly on the street now have permanent housing. That's a win all the way around.
It is.
And then in terms of when you see someone who's homeless and how do I help them? Well, if you feel comfortable, you can engage them and say, how can I be of assistance to you? And in pretty short order, you can develop some sort of relationship to help link them to resources like the Salvation Army and River Edge and the Daybreak Center and different things like that. And sometimes, as a survival mechanism, folks who are homeless don't respond real well to that. Okay, and so it takes repetitive outreach. So that's a part of what we do, to develop a relationship that I am safe, I'm not going to hurt you, I really do want to be helpful, and we can do that outreach to help them get into permanent housing. Another service that we offer, in addition to supported housing, River Edge is Georgia's largest shelter plus care provider. And that's the permanent supportive housing kind of operation. We also do services for folks who are HIV positive, and in providing housing as well. And in fact, we've won national accolades for leadership, supported housing, and health information technology. Another service that we offer is called supported employment. One of the keys, particularly for adults in recovery, is they want a place to live and they want a job. And sometimes they either lost those skills when they became ill, or they were never taught them growing up. And so through supported employment, a job coach kind of helps to identify what's the best job for you versus what's the best job for me, and make them the employer-employee match, and provides supports along the way until that person's walking steady, if you will, in their employment. Because our goal is independence.
Wow, you all are doing, congratulations, you all are doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about drug and alcohol addiction.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about the signs,
Okay.
and some about the specific treatments that are available through Riverhead.
Okay. Addiction happens when somebody continues to drink or use despite negative consequences. Okay. And some of the things that happen with alcoholism is one drink is too many and 1,000's not enough. or I do things when I drink that I wouldn't do otherwise, or I embarrass myself, or I continue to use despite fines and that sort of thing. One of the important things to think about, particularly if you have a loved one who is drinking or you believe is using things like Valium or Xanax or those kinds of things, medical detox is very important, because withdrawal from alcohol and benzodiazepines is physically pretty scary. Another big issue in our community is prescription drug addiction. Things like Lortab or
Oxycontin. I don't know what that is, but
there you go.
That's the new buzz in the community.
That's right. And that's in the same drug class as heroin.
Wow.
And it's an opiate. And you likely won't die from opiate detox, you just wish you would. I mean, it feels terrible. So there's ways to medically manage that. And so detox is important. That's
You mean when
one.
you're addicted and when you're trying to wean off of it,
Mhm.
it's really tough, huh?
It's physically very uncomfortable. And but where truly alcohol and benzodiazepines are life-threatening, that you can die with seizures and that sort of thing. Opiates are not so life-threatening. You just feel miserable, like you have the flu or something. But anyway, so issue number one is getting somebody safely medically detoxified. All right. Issue number two is, so now, because what happens is when you continue to drink or use despite negative consequences, you use to feel your version of normal. So when you take away that you take away that chemical, it feels abnormal.
Okay.
So how do you learn to live sober? All right. And so treatment is about, what are my triggers to use? What are the things that make me feel like I need to use now? Like it might be unresolved trauma, or it might be I didn't learn other coping skills or whatever. And then it's about developing a new social network that supports a sober lifestyle. Because as you know, drinking and using becomes kind of the part of the social way you do
Right.
things. And so when you pull yourself out of that.
That's who your friends are.
Yeah.
Or people who are doing the same thing.
Right. But again, recovery's real, and it can happen. And so some of the services that we offer are outpatient, intensive outpatient, day and evening, and then just other adjunctive services, like if there's a trauma history, for example, to help support recovery.
What about the cost? I know that, people listening are wondering, well, I need some help myself, or I know somebody who needs help, but can I afford it?
Mm-hmm. Well, what I can tell you is River Edge is the area's most cost-effective provider. That's number one. We accept Medicare, Medicaid, most forms of third-party insurance, and then we have a state contract for certain services for folks who are uninsured. We offer a sliding fee scale based on income if you're uninsured, but we also come from the place of saying people value what they pay for, and so services are not free. They're not free, but we work with folks to help them get care.
If they want to be protected. Well, it seems that that, is there anything that, any kind of suggestion you want to make, you know, to the audience as it relates to how the community can assist River Edge in its endeavor to making life better, you know, for everybody in the community in particular? And I don't think we can overemphasize the fact that peripherally, you know, all of us are affected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so any of these illnesses or diseases or addictions, you know, they affect everybody, either directly and indirectly. So is there anything that we can do or anything that we need to know, or any kind of outreach program that you would like the community to know about, you know, church organization or what have you?
Several things. Number one, please recognize that behavioral health disorders are real medical conditions, and help us reduce the stigma. Issue number two, please recognize River Edge as a community asset. For every $1 spent in treatment, $7 are saved in other social costs like police, jail, and when you look at medical costs offset, it's if every $1 saves $12. So we're a great investment. We're a great investment. We're always looking for partners to join us in the work in volunteering and in making gifts. For example, several local churches have adopted programs of ours, like Highland Hills has adopted LifeSpring, the Women's Recovery Program. Wow. And we invite partners because it really is wonderful to help people, to see it, help people recover their lives. And please contact us through our website if you're interested in volunteering.
The phone number again?
478-803-7625.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you saying is that because of the variety of services that River Edge offers, in one way or the other, just about everybody can help.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, you can help by being an advocate. If you're an organization, you can adopt a facility, or you might need some volunteers for certain events, mentors, and things of that nature.
Right.
So that's very, very important. Let me congratulate you.
Oh, thank you.
And let me say on behalf of the community, if I may assume that position, that it's a pleasure, you know, to interview you, and that I appreciate and the community appreciates, because you just showed and told us the statistics on it, and we really appreciate it, and just keep up the good work, because what's that mantra?
We make life better.
Because River Edge Health and Behavioral Center makes life better. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
This is a call to action.
A call to action.
I'm your host, Alex Harvey. Have a great day.